As an organisation, we've been around for 24 years. We're an international company, we're a publicly listed company. All of our forms have all been paper-based for our entire history. The first key form that we use is a membership application form. We would print a lot of these application forms, and because we're a professional organisation, everything was branded, everything was printed in high gloss, colour, and it was an expensive process. And the cost of couriering all of those application forms on a daily basis, every day, from 15 different locations in New Zealand and 50 different locations in Australia, was a very expensive process. We've now transitioned all of that across onto GoFormz. It's all done on iPads. We have no paper. All of our salespeople carry iPads, and all of our trade brokers carry iPads.
Being able to eliminate that workflow and that process of really collecting data on a paper base and then having to scan and file that or put that in some kind of a external database in order to produce some kind of metrics and information is very labor intensive. So we've been able to really improve the efficiency of the data that we collect, and we can really do a better job at not just collecting information but tracking how different projects are performing across the company.
Before GoFormz, they had like 30-page document that was attached to each unit that was produced, and they couldn't track anything on it. And we were having a lot of efficiency issues, like we have like a lot of tiles that are cracked, or the paint is not done properly and all that stuff. And we wanted to find out, hey, how do I track all this? And we couldn't do that with the paper. Somebody would have to manually enter it into Excel spreadsheets and things like that.
Let's face it, people only want to enter data once. And if we can take a user interface like GoFormz, and that's the first point that the data actually enters, it should never ever have to be entered again.
We had looked at a couple different systems. I think a lot of them kind of lacked some of the early basic functionality that we were looking for. It's really about the ease of use and then also the data on the back end.
We used to use another software that was too clunky for what we were trying to do, so I looked for another solution.
When we came to the United States, I made a very clear statement to our finance administration manager. I said, we are not going to have paper. And so I started searching for a way to actually take paper out of our business.
We just literally went on the App Store and typed in forms, and there wasn't a whole lot of options there. Or the ones that were there did not, again, meet really the criteria that we were looking for.
It's actually quite user-friendly, and it's actually very intuitive. So to create a form, our sales application form, I created the whole thing in like 35 minutes. And we had it up and running, and we were running trials, and we were signing signatures, and we did that. It was fantastic.
The way it is, it takes the existing paper form and it converts it into an electronic format. So we are not changing the format. It looks exactly the same. So people are used to using those forms, and it's an easier transition to move on to the tablet version.
The biggest testimonial for me is when I can give the product to a superintendent or a foreman who's not very technology savvy, and they actually want to use it. They come to me and they actually tell me what a great tool it has been, how much it improves their workflow, how much less time they spend in filling out paperwork.
All we do is out in the field, they complete the sales application on the iPad. When they're finished, they hit the transfer button, and it's already at their location. Manager signs off on it, hits the transfer button, it's at the national office. That process can be in less than 10 minutes now.
We have been able to make our manufacturing processes much more efficient using this, because we know we are getting the feedback from the shop floor that we weren't getting before. So that helps us tremendously in making the process much more efficient.
The word's getting around, and obviously in these industry conferences you share stories and what's working and what's not working, and this is actually one of our really good success stories we can share with some of our competitors. And if we can move the whole industry forward, it's only better. Construction industry is traditionally a bunch of good old boys who don't like change, so it's just wonderful to see things like this being adopted, and we're starting to move into this sort of the digital age.
Actually recommend it to a lot of people. Whenever I go somewhere and I see a process that just doesn't make sense, and I would just be like, put in GoFormz. It will work here.
Everyone I get to talk to, if I ever see anyone using a paper form, I'm telling them about GoFormz. I'm sending them messages on social media saying, if you're still using paper, you should be using GoFormz. So I think the product is fantastic. You guys have got a huge future ahead of you, and I think you'll be the next big thing in the tech world.